Hello, welcome to Retrotainment. Joined here by my co-host, capital C, capital O, Greg. How are you doing, buddy?
What's happening, homie?
Nothing much. We're just gonna do our wrap-up show for the year, which is going to look back at our last of all the shows we recorded for this year, and we're gonna pick each our top five films. So it's not the actual top five shows because that's too difficult to actually do, but the films that were chosen for the shows. That's what we're going to choose here. This is going to be
just something different for the new year.
Yeah, just a good way to start us into the new year. This is going to be our last show on the Dynamo podcast network. We are going to split off and create our own YouTube channel and our own anchor and things like that. So the links to them will be in the description of the video. So anyone that's been a fan over the years or becomes a fan, please follow us over there, like us, share, subscribe, all of that stuff. The Facebook and Twitter will be remaining the same as usual, same with the Instagram, but it'll be a new YouTube from now on, which all the boys are doing. The upper tier have moved off to their own one. On the slab will be moving off to their own one as well. King Rose Court will be moving off to its own one. Dynamo's doesn't. They'll all be splitting off. So Retrotainment and Retrotainment Recast will be splitting off into our own one, and the link for that will be in the description below.
It'll just be the one page for Retrotainment and Recast.
Yeah, it's been a great year with the Dynamo podcast network, but we just felt that it was time for us all to just make our own thing. We're all still completely involved with each other. There's been no fallout, no arguments, or anything like that. It's just this was a decision that we all came to, that we felt it's time to just make our own channels and see how we can do from there. But so we all leave on a happy note, but we'll get into this, Greg. So we'll let you go with your first one, since you're the capital C, capital O co-host.
Wait, so that's not fair now. You're the host. You go first.
Well, see, host, the co-host gets first. That's how you get in. Yeah, good guy Ted here. Have a reputation to uphold.
Yeah, whenever we get back to it. Right, one that we done not so long ago there for the Robin Williams month. I'm gonna go with Hook.
Yeah,
how could you not?
Classic, isn't it?
The single best Peter Pan version of Peter Pan there is.
Yeah, it's a classic. It's obviously one. Robin Williams is it's one of his. I don't know if it's even one of his. It's probably not one of his better roles, but it's such an enjoyable film.
I think for me, that's like people that say Jumanji and Mrs. Doubtfire. That for me is the one that I can go back and just watch over and over and over again.
Yeah, 100% for me.
I can watch Jumanji as well, but I'll watch Hook quicker than I'd watch Jumanji.
Yeah, if I had to pick one to watch, if someone was like, you have to watch one now and you can't watch the other one, I'd just put Hook on then. Yeah, thanks.
It's like 2.5 hours or whatever it is, and it flies by.
Yeah. It's himself and Dustin Hoffman, really. Outside of that,
Bob Hoskins, Julia Roberts.
Yeah, they're not
the big names in it.
They're not the stars though. The Hoffman and
no,
Williams were at this point. Like they were the star power and they killed it.
Yeah, Spielberg's genius as well.
Yeah, brilliant. It's a brilliant selection. It would have been on my list, except for the fact that yes, we agreed. We each make sure that we didn't have the same one on the list, because it'd be a bit of a shit video if we decided to.
There's no point in doing 5 each or whatever, and you having the same 5s I have, or at least 3 of them. Probably.
Yeah, I think a lot of them would be quite similar. I went with one that could flip flop day to day, as I said when we recorded them. So I went with Terminator 2, but if I was asked tomorrow, it could be Terminator. Do you know that way?
Big choice. This is the same. We said it on the show. This is the same as Alien and Aliens.
Yeah.
You can easily pick one between the other. Like Terminator 1 is more the horror side of it. Terminator 2 is arguably probably the best sci-fi movie ever made.
Yeah, and I think, Terminator has to build its own franchise, whereas Terminator 2 gets to piggyback off the already successful Terminator film. Yeah. But I think for me, Terminator 2, it's just, because they already had that success, they had a little bit more money to play with. They had a bit more confidence when they were going into it.
I think we said on that episode, this was the biggest budget of a movie at one stage.
One of the stages, yeah, it would have been. And I think it just, because of that and like them being confident in how the Terminator should act, and the fact that it's, you know, such a massive twist that Arnie comes back again as the Terminator, but this time he's the good guy because he was so popular as Terminator in the original that they were like, we can't use him as the bad guy again. Like, people aren't going to buy it.
Like, I feel sorry in the first one. Like, everyone remembers Arnie and Sarah Connor, obviously, from the first one. But Michael Biehn should have got a lot of love for that. He was good in the first one. Like,
he was, yeah. But I think Arnie was just such a, you know,
it was polarizing, really.
Yeah, like, it was hard not to love him. You know, this big walking, you know, not like walking, not talking machine that just gunned down anyone. You just kind of, you should hate him, but you just couldn't.
Yeah, it was brilliant. But the humor even in the second one was
letting him talk that little bit more, and you know, he does have a few lines in the first one, but letting him talk that little bit more and fleshing him out a bit.
Yeah, the sarcasm and everything.
Yeah, like him trying to learn how to interact with humans. It's just so good.
I feel the franchise kind of collapsed after this.
I think 3 was okay. And then they kind of just went a bit wayward after that. It went a bit, you know, we're living off our success after that. But Terminator 1 and 2, 100%, I could flip-flop on either of them. Yeah. But for today, I'm going to go with Terminator 2.
Yeah, my horror background will tell me to go 1.
Yeah, and you know, as we said at the time, I couldn't argue with you. No. You know, like, no, you're wrong.
If someone says to you 1 or 2, whichever.
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy to watch either one, really, lads.
Yeah, like, I don't know, it's a fucking phenomenal film. And he was at the height of his powers as well.
Yeah,
and this only chasmed him into stardom even more. Like,
oh yeah, he just went from strength to strength from there.
Yeah, from the early 80s up, he was just early 80s to late 90s, maybe even 2000.
I think even now, like, you stick him in something now and have him in that sort of role, and he's like, people will still flock to see him.
Oh yeah, like, look at him in the Expendables and things.
Yeah, like, it's still
it's now for him in name, because he doesn't, like, all right, whatever, he had the body and things at that stage. Do you know what I mean? People went, like, women went to see that more so than the movie, I'd say, and maybe even some men, whatever you're into.
Yeah, but no, yeah, you know, the men went because, you know, it was this pure massive action film, and women went to see him. Like,
I mean, you know, James Cameron done a hell of a job with these.
Yeah, no, two classic films. What have you got for your second on your list there? Go on.
Sure, it's an old favorite of mine. It was the first episode that I appeared on.
Oh yes, I know it.
Hurricane.
Yes, I hadn't seen it before. You'd come on and told me to give that a watch. Yeah, great pick. I really enjoyed it.
Denzel is fucking phenomenal. He should have won an Oscar for this.
Yeah, I can't believe he didn't.
I can't remember what beat him at this minute in time, but something big bet him.
Yeah, he deserved one though. Like, this was like, it's a very different role to a lot of what Denzel would have been doing.
The action, yeah.
Yeah, and it's quality, like.
Yeah, it was so well put together, and the story, now obviously some of it's fleshed out. And
yeah, it's, you know, Hollywood.
But, the book, like, how he finds the book to the story to getting him out of prison.
Yeah, and I've
actually read that book now.
Yeah, I love that the kid is, you know, like, I love the story of, like, you have kind of two stories in it, because you have Denzel's story itself, where you're hearing about his boxing career and how he got, you know, shafted and stuff, and then you've got the story of the child who, you know, gets adopted out of this kind of
it's a very strange adoption, that one, because he's well into his teens.
Yeah, like, he can't read or write, but like, they can tell that he's got an intelligence there. Yeah. So they take him in, and then he moves forward with his other family, learns to read. He finds someone that, you know, he eventually just finds that book, and that drives him to being a lawyer. And then throughout the rest of his life, you know, the two of them are intertwined together, and he eventually gets them all. It's just, it's a great story. And then obviously the film is fleshed out, and, you know, more is made of certain things than isn't. But
but like, that DVD was so hard to come by. One of the lads had to pick it up for me when he was in Galway a number of years ago. So good. Like, it's actually currently upstairs in my DVD player.
Yeah, I know.
I watched it again the other night.
It was brilliant. Like, that was one I hadn't seen before, as I said at the time, and it's definitely one that I will go back and rewatch. Now, it's a kind of, it's not one of the harder watches I've ever seen, but it is tough, and it's long,
It's a 2.5 hour long.
But it feels 2.5 hours, because it's not really easy,
it's
like
intense as well.
Yeah, the whole time you're like, Jesus, the injustice of this whole shit, like, and like that's what it was. And there's loads of things, like there's loads of films I'll watch that are like that, but I wouldn't rewatch them 100 times. I'd rewatch them, every couple of years maybe.
Like there's the one movie that I've watched twice and I'll never rewatch is Schindler's List, probably.
I think I've watched that once. I don't think I've put it on again.
That's the single roughest watch that I've had.
Yeah, Prisoners is one for me that very long, three and a bit hours. Very tough watch, very brilliant film, but it's just not one I'd stick on again too quickly.
Yeah, this one though, I've watched this probably 200-300 times.
Oh yeah, I'm nowhere near that on this one, but I'll definitely I won't rewatch it again this year, I wouldn't say, but
I know. So we only done it back in March or February or March.
Yeah, it would have been January, I think, in and around that we did this one. But
episode 6, was it?
Something like that. Yeah, it was very early on. So it is one that I will rewatch, but it definitely won't be top of my list for rewatches like Hook.
Oh yeah, but as I said, it's not as easy a watch as say Hook.
Yeah, exactly.
Now I don't think there's too much in the difference in time, but it's Hook's more enjoyable watch.
Yeah, you can sit down and watch Hook, and you can miss 10 minutes of it, and it's kind of all right. Whereas this, it's a bit like, oh, I don't want to miss any of that. Yeah. No, two very contrasting films, but two very solid ones.
Yeah, two hitters.
Yeah, I'll be sticking with kind of action packed here, and it's one that we did not too long ago when we were doing our kind of action films. I went with Kill Bill.
How could you not love Kill Bill?
Now, obviously, I know some people aren't Tarantino guys and they just don't like any of his films, which I guess if you're not into his style, you're not into it.
Yeah, if you don't like that kind of film, don't watch it. Simple as that, because you're gonna fucking hate it.
Yeah, and I get that, some people just don't like that style, and that's perfectly fine. But Kill Bill for me, I'm cheating a little bit here because we only covered volume 1, but both of them, like the selection of Kill Bill 1 and 2 together, it's just so good for me.
How strange was it though when we knew that was coming out, that he was gonna do a back-to-back film?
Oh yeah,
for him it just doesn't exist.
He normally it's a one and done, but then you find out at the end of the film, there's
a second bit to this.
There's another bit to this. This was one of the few where he said, yeah, I have a two-parter here.
This is the only one.
Yeah, like this, but he came out and he said it. He was like, I've got a two-parter here. And just, the way he went about it, the first film is her knocking off 2 of the enemies.
Yeah.
Which I like because, the start of the first film,
she gets all sorts of fucked up.
Yeah, she gets all sorts of fucked up, but it starts with her marking Black Mamba off her list. Yeah. Then it jumps all the way back to, right, why is this a thing? And then you build from there, get to her killing Black Mamba, and then you get to move on from there to
Shiren.
To Oren. Yeah, it's just Oren Ishii. Yeah, it's so good. Soundtrack for it is great as well.
Yeah, Vivica A. Fox and
Lucy Liu. Yeah, this is the height of Lucy Liu here as well.
Yeah, they were phenomenal to get in.
Yeah.
The cast of this, Uma Thurman obviously is a Quentin Tarantino girl.
Yeah.
Michael Madsen, who you see for about 15 seconds in this movie.
Yeah, he's not in this one much, but he is in the second one. Obviously, he departed this year as well, but he's the sword maker.
Yeah, his name evades me at this minute in time.
Yeah, it's
I know who you're talking about.
But he was a big name at that time. Hattori Hanzo is what he's called in the film. But
he passed away. And actually, I was just before we done this. That's why we done Kill Bill. We brought Kill Bill in.
Yeah, because of
because I don't think we originally had that on the list for that month.
No, and then
correctly.
Yeah, then we changed, and obviously we had Carl Sherlock on for that one as well.
Shout out to Carl Sherlock.
Yeah, actor was Sonny Chiba. That's who it is.
The one, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, just the film is just so good. The
And like,
scenes in it as well, you know, like it goes black and white when she's killing all the crazy 88s. Then it goes back to full color, and she's in the
poor old Sophie.
She's in the Bruce Lee suit, sort of. And then
poor old Sophie getting her arm chopped off.
Yeah, well, you know, she shouldn't have been.
I mean, like, it's the most out there of Tarantino's movies.
It's very out there, but like I remember when this was released, and it was a huge deal.
Do you remember the controversy he caused when he put up the big banner on Hollywood Boulevard?
The big bloody sword.
Man parked his convertible right underneath it.
Yeah, it gets me every time. But yeah, that's my one. Cheating a little bit there, because obviously there's a volume 2 to that we haven't covered. But
we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there, and the two of them together are just phenomenal. On their own, they're great as well. But you know, it's a double.
The one thing I love about this now, I know we haven't actually got to Pulp Fiction on Retrotainment yet, but the fact that he planted the seed
for this in Pulp Fiction,
yeah. Like, it's phenomenal. Like, if you hadn't seen Pulp Fiction at ease and you watch Pulp Fiction and then watch this, you're like, oh my god.
But it's so subtle as well that if he hadn't done something with it, you know, it'd just be a part in Pulp Fiction. Yeah, it's great.
Absolutely brilliant. Well, we'll move swiftly on. I will run into a horror background here.
Yeah, of course.
I'll go to my favorite horror movie, and it'll make a list every time.
Yeah,
60% of the time it works every time. No, Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, a classic. Yeah, it's. I didn't even bother thinking of putting this on my list. I seen it and I said, not even going to bother. That's already going to be in. Not going to bother. And I said that to you before. I was like, you know, there's a couple of horror films, like when we covered them. Obviously we did a House on Haunted Hill with Aaron. And then
shout out to Aaron from First Class Horror.
Then we each picked one, and you obviously picked Nightmare. I picked 1408, which
was another show.
Spoiler, doesn't make the list here, but
honorable mention though.
Yeah, it's a very big honorable mention, because in terms of horror films, it is one of my top ones that doesn't get a lot of love because it's not a franchise.
Yeah, but the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise is arguably poor.
Yeah, I think so.
I've said that even on the slab. I'd say it's arguably poor.
I think as a franchise, it's quite poor, but as a standalone film,
1, 3, and 4 are the good ones, and A New Nightmare.
Yeah.
I said that on an episode there with Mikey. On the slab. If you haven't seen it, check it out. But 1 had to build the franchise.
And what a way to build it.
Like, to think about it now, when you look back, that Robert Englund wasn't originally cast.
Can't see anybody else doing it now, can you?
Well, there was a guy that actually had seen filmed the opening 20 minutes or something and then pulled out.
Yeah, but like you can't even imagine it not being him now at this point, you know.
But he, I think, saved slasher movies in a way.
Changed them.
He changed the game. He brought it in. He brought the humor in. Like, that was when he done that. They brought it in. That he went into the likes of Hot Topic with clothes and.
Yeah, it was a big game changer, and like obviously changed it from the likes of Michael Myers and stuff, where they, you know, walked down their victims. This was very different. He did hunt. Like it wasn't like he just jumped out.
Yeah,
like
he predatorily stalked.
Like he did stalk, but like he'd let them get away, but then he'd show up behind them, and obviously he has mystical powers where he can, you know, teleport, and you know, it's in someone's dreams. So
like, I think they've done a very good job in the franchise of doing that you can kind of do anything. They didn't go too much into it in the first one, but you can kind of do most things in a dream.
Yeah, exactly. And even when he's outside of the dream, he can still do things like that, you know, because he's a mystical, he's a mystical being. Do you know what I mean?
We got the great Johnny Depp coming out of this as well.
Yeah. In this, he's not great. If this was what you were going to base his film career on, you'd be like, Jesus, he's not going to be a success.
To get into this,
his death scene, though,
that's iconic in terms of horror. If you go into even YouTube and put in iconic horror deaths, that's going to be in it somewhere.
Yeah. Even the way the mother dies in this one, you know, like it's nowhere near as iconic.
You can tell it's a balloon.
Yeah, but like it's nowhere near as iconic. But like pulled
through the door,
she just kind of like fades down through the
Oh, the bed.
The bed, and she just disappears, and then obviously like going up the stairs where, you know, people say it's very noticeable now. You know, when she's running up the stairs,
you can see the holes.
You can see the hole. It's noticeable now because we have 4K televisions and they've been remastered to 4K. When you're watching that back in the 80s on some shitbox telly, not a chance you were ever going to notice that.
I said on that episode on the slab to Mikey, I said, how many times do you reckon she ran up that first one and missed the second hole?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, loads of times.
You'd have to take all that goo off and go again.
Go again and again and again. Yeah, I'd say it was a tough day at the office filming that one.
Yeah, but like some of the special effects that Wes Craven brought into this was phenomenal.
Yeah, and see that's the thing. They are special effects, but they're not CGI, because obviously that wasn't a thing then. You know, like it was like we have to make this stair that her foot can sink into.
And then like when you see Freddy coming out of the bed and the sheet starts to stick to him because obviously he was just on fire.
Yeah, and then like
it's the little things they do in it. And then obviously they had the great John Saxon as well.
Yeah, he's. I think he at the time. I think at the time, like he's the name. You know.
Yeah.
And even now, like I know as a horror fan, you know who plays Freddy, but I think a lot of people don't even they don't think about who plays Freddy. It could be a different person every time, as far as they're concerned, because Freddy is the attraction now, rather than any individual actor.
Unfortunately, the franchise is at this minute in time dead and buried.
Yeah, well, I've given my idea. Someone should take me up on it.
I think it's a very good idea.
Put him into a VR game. There's your new film.
We've already seen him obviously make an appearance in Ready Player One.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go. VR. A load of kids put on a VR headset. One of them dies in it, and that's the story from there. Like it's the exact same as a dream. Like you could nearly do the original film to an extent.
It's kind of using that new Jumanji way of doing it, isn't it?
Like you use 5 kids, 4 or 5 kids, whatever way you want to do it, you use them, and it's just a VR headset. And one of them's like eventually realizes like, oh, we've got to go in the VR to drag him out. Like you can still do all of that, or we need to beat him in VR, and like you can do that. I think that's the way if they ever want to reboot this franchise and give a few more films to it, that's the way they go. Dreams, forget about doing it in Dreams anymore. Now is the time to go VR.
Yeah, I'd watch it honestly, but for me, I'll only watch 3 or 4 of them unless I'm really invested in going through the franchise again, because some of them are absolute trash.
Yeah, and see that's the thing. Like some of them aren't great, some of them are quite poor, but they're the ones you put your hat on, so there's not much you can do about it at that point.
I mean, like this is the movie. I said it all the time. This is the movie that I have that started me on horror.
Yeah, exactly. I snuck down the stairs when you were told not to, but
best believe I'm going down that stairs.
Well, you can't tell a kid not to do something because it's the first thing they'll do. They get it when they get a chance.
I was given 2 movies never to watch. This was one of them, and The Exorcist was the other.
Yeah, well, The Exorcist is the first. The original one's okay. The rest of them are all pretty much the same.
Never seen the rest of them.
I've seen Exorcist of Emily Rose and stuff, and they're not bad.
Oh no, they're different though. That's nothing to do with the actual Exorcist franchise.
No, but you know what I mean? Like exorcisms, there's only so much you can do because it's kind of the same story. So once you've seen one, you've kind of seen them all, which is kind of the problem with them. I will stick with kind of action, but it's a sort of superhero-y action one here, which, if I'd let you just do any old films, yours would have been mainly horror. This is kind of what happens with me, is I'm kind of more comedy and action films. I do love horror and drama and stuff like that, but I find that these seem to be the ones I fall into. But this is one that I've rewatched recently with you, and it's, I'd kind of forgotten how much I loved it. But The Crow,
I only rewatched it obviously with upcoming.
Yeah, with this, like with when we recorded that, you rewatch it, and it's such a good film. Like,
yeah, it's a real shame that Brandon Lee obviously died on set.
Yeah, there's a couple of other Crow films after this, which was always going to be.
Is it? Or
I think there's 3 or 4 of them, and the idea was that obviously he was going to be the Crow in all of them.
Yeah.
But obviously because he died on set. Which something very similar happened recently as well. Obviously with Alec Baldwin, it's
fucking
insane.
mental. How is it? This happened more than a couple of times though.
Yeah, I just unfortunately in The Crow, it was the main actor who was actually the one who passed away from it. Like, it's sad that anyone passed away from it, but obviously this was a bit more notable in the paper because of who died, rather
obviously being Bruce Lee's son as well,
same age as Bruce Lee and everything. Like, it was just crazy stuff. But the film,
there was talks that they were going to scrap this movie. I know it was near the end.
Oh yeah, it was right. Like, there's a few scenes in this where they he actually doesn't shoot. They just double him in from other stuff. But it's so good. Like, the concept of he died a year ago, he comes back to avenge the people who killed him, and he's supernatural. But he doesn't. I
completely forgot how dark some of the parts in this film were. There's that whole scene with the girlfriend in the room and the thing with
not even kind of like not just hinted at, like very much like, oh yeah,
that happened.
Like, we're raping her, like you know that's what's happening in a scene. And then
like, as much horror as I watch and all them kind of scenes, just kind of, I know for most people, I'm just kind of like, you don't really need it.
But no, you don't, but it does. Like,
it emphasizes it.
I think in some films it's like, yeah, you really didn't need to put that in, and it really did take away from the film. Whereas this, I feel, you could have got around the fact of doing it, but putting it in really does add to it. Like, it really makes grows
your hatred for
the four boys. Like, and the thing is, like, the four lads are kind of not really that important. Like, Tintin, you see for a little bit, dead pretty quickly. Funboy, you see for a little bit, dead pretty quickly.
T-Pain.
T-Bird.
T-Pain.
Not T-Pain. T-Pain, my man, he's still going. No, T-Bird, T-Bird is probably the biggest actor of these cronies. Probably the biggest actor in the film, maybe.
No, Ernie Hudson.
Ernie Hudson's definitely bigger. Yeah, that's fair. No, Ernie Hudson would have been bigger.
Yeah, Ghostbusters. Yeah,
Ghostbusters was out because this is 90s and Ghostbusters, right? Ernie Hudson's definitely a bigger actor. That is true.
David Thomas Kelly was a fucking dickhead, though. He's the
dickhead. It's kind of similar to
the Warriors.
Yeah, like, you have him in the Warriors as the dickhead. Like, you could just, any film where you're like, we need a bit of a dickhead here, you'd lash him in and that'd be you sorted.
Yeah. Even when you look at The Longest Yard, he's in that, and he's the one who kills Caretaker in that. So if you haven't seen it, but it came out in like 2000, so get over it.
So get over it. Like, he's so good. Like, he's probably the second biggest name. Obviously Brandon Lee would have probably been quite a big name, obviously.
I think he would have exploded after
I think he was going to explode onto the scene after this one, but unfortunately he didn't. But like, T-Bird doesn't even last all that long. Like, Skank is the one that lasts the longest. He's not a big name. Top Dollar, not a big name.
Big names, obviously the two lads,
the two boys, and then the one that was meant to be the big name.
I think Darla went on to be a big name as well, didn't she?
She did, but like, at the time, she's not. She's not a selling point.
Like, it wasn't a big cast.
No, it's not.
The movie was well written, and
and it comes from like comic books and stuff, which we've seen is obviously easily done. But this is at a time before Marvel had become the big hitter that it is now.
Yeah, this was around the time of Blade, when Marvel started dabbling into that.
A little bit, but
94, 95, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. But even like Blade, as successful as Blade was and as enjoyable as it is, I still don't count that as Marvel, because even though it is as a Marvel comic, but like, when I talk Marvel, I'm talking what Marvel is now, like what they became, like this big franchise.
Yeah, I'm very intrigued to see what they do with the new show, but obviously that's a different thing.
Yeah, I am interested in that, but like, The Crow, for me, it's a very dark superhero film.
And like, there was talks that they were rebooting it there this year, but
I'm glad. I would be up for seeing it rebooted, but I think they would really struggle to
some of the scenes
outshine this one.
Now.
Not even that. I think they'd struggle to outshine this one. I think this one holds a special place in a lot of people's hearts. So if you are into superhero films and
dark
all that stuff,
films, like, especially even the likes of Darkman. Do you remember that one with Liam Neeson?
Yeah, if you're into stuff like that, this is one that, like, even if it's not that much of a horror, But like,
No,
if
it's
you're a
just
horror
dark.
fan, but if you're a horror fan, I think this is a superhero film you would like. If you're,
There are
one of the
tropes to it,
yeah, like if you're one of those people that's like, I'm a horror fan and I don't like all this Disney, like all the superhero good guy always gets his way, this that and the other. If you don't like that, this is a sort of horror film. Like this is the sort of superhero film I think you would enjoy.
yeah. I love this. I
Yeah.
hadn't seen it in years, and when we rewatched it for this,
I'd say I'd watched it, I hadn't seen it in like 3 or 4 years at that point.
oh no, I was
But
longer than that. I was 10,
yeah,
15
see,
years.
like I for ages I was watching this at least once or twice a year. Ages I used to always have it on, and then it's just kind of so many films came out that it kind of just fell to the side.
Yeah, it's
But
brilliant.
now it's back in the rotation now, 100%.
Absolutely fucking brilliant it is.
Yeah.
And as we said, it's a shame that it ended the way it did.
Yeah, very big shame, but sure.
But it is what it is.
Yeah.
So we move on. We'll go from dark action kind of thing to 80s, 70s, 80s racism America.
Oh, this is a tough watch as well. It's not as tough as
this is quality. This is Remember the Titans.
Yeah, not as tough as the Hurricane, but like the social aspect of like that still exists today. Like, let's not sugarcoat that. It still does exist, but maybe not as prevalent as it was as it's depicted here, which is definitely the way it was back in the 70s and 80s.
And for Disney to dabble in and do this was a big one.
Yeah, it's quality film. I'm not a big American football guy, but yeah, it's very good.
Stars the main man, Denzel, again.
Yeah, you're a big Denzel fan.
And an old favourite of mine, Will Patton.
You like Will Patton, do you, Greg?
No,
I never would have guessed, man.
You wouldn't have guessed that from Recast anyway.
No, you wouldn't guess that one at all.
Obviously it wasn't even just them. Ryan Gosling was in it.
Big
Ryan
cast.
Hurst is in it. Eden Serpley, who obviously went on to do My Name Is Earl and other things. Chris Turk from
I know his name's not actually Chris Turk, but like that's all he is to me.
Donald Faison.
Yeah, he's Chris Turk to me. Like if you told me Turk's in that, I'd be like, oh yeah, I know who that is.
And then the girl,
Hayden Panettiere.
That's the one. Yeah, she's gone on to be something big.
Not a name at the time, but a big name now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like this movie was fucking phenomenal. Like I seen this, I was lying in the south in my mom's house and I was absolutely hanging. And they came on the telly and me and my dad were sitting there and I seen Disney sign. I was like, then I seen Denzel and I was like, okay. Then I seen Will Patton come up and I was like, I'm in.
I'm all in. Were you an American football fan by this point?
Yeah,
you were. Yeah,
I've been an American football fan since I was about 12.
Yeah.
It used to be on Channel 4.
Yeah. See, I'm not really big into American football. I've watched the odd Super Bowl here and there.
With the bet you used to do with Alan.
Yeah, it's more just that as interesting as American football is to me, there's just too many breaks.
Yeah.
And I get what people say of, the breaks are needed because they have to do the tactics and stuff. And I would love to watch that, but be able to hear the tactics. Like sit in and
can. So like if you have, say, NFL Game Pass.
Yeah, but you'd have to be fairly into the NFL to have bought that already.
It's only 30 quid.
Yeah, but you'd have to
well, for me subscribe to everything else.
I do. I subscribe to a whole lot of things that I haven't used. New Japan I use once a year and have a subscription for the entire year. But it's just one of those things that I'm like, that's probably the more interesting aspect to me because watching the plays, the play is so broken up. It's it's similar to rugby in that it's a big hard hitting game, but it's so slow moving. Yeah. That I find it hard to sit down and watch.
I can fully understand why it didn't really take off over here.
Yeah.
Considering the way we have football and things like basketball's fast moving as well.
Yeah.
That took off over here, but like for me, I don't even know how I fell into liking it.
Oh yeah, it's something you just fell into. But like, you were an American football fan watching this. Yeah. I'm not, and even I found it an enjoyable watch. It's long as well, but again, it's very enjoyable.
This one moves a lot quicker than the likes of the Hurricane, though.
Oh yeah, it's although there's aspects of racism and how horrible life was back then. The companionship between a lot of the players, and the friendships that they bind into makes it move that bit quicker
when they're at college camp.
Like when they get taken away,
out to Gettysburg.
Yeah,
that them few moments you're just like, oh.
Yeah, but the film moves a lot quicker then because of that.
Yeah, and then obviously you get Will Patton's infamous speech from it.
Yeah,
when he's talking to the referee.
Yeah, no, very, very, very solid pick.
I watch this at least 3 or 4 times a year.
I definitely haven't watched it that much.
And now that it's on Disney, I watch it quite a bit more. Like I'll just throw it on and have it on in the background.
Yeah, it's just one of your comfort films, as they say. Like, don't know what to watch, fire that on, it'll do.
It'll do.
I move into I move into into the horror cast here, although some people would maybe not consider this a horror now. I
will gladly tell you those people are incorrect.
I think they're wrong, but I do see if people were to say it's a creature feature, not a horror, I wouldn't be able to argue too much against that. I mean, that's just a subgenre to me, though.
Technically, creature features fall into the horror category.
Yeah, for me they do. But obviously, I've been very vocal about it before. Jaws for me is the top horror for me.
For me, I'll always say Jaws is almost the most near perfect movie you'll ever get.
Yeah, and obviously it changed on the fly because the animatronic shark wasn't working, which just improved the film overall.
Two of the 3 that they had didn't work.
Yeah, but like this improved the film.
Bruce fucked it up for them big time, but
this improved the film massively. I
think that shows a lot of Steven Spielberg's genius
to continue on
and made it work. That okay, the shark's not working. We'll have him in there for 7 minutes, 12 minutes.
Yeah, it's a very small amount of time. Like, and you see him, when I talk about this film, I'm always like, oh, you don't see the shark for ages. Technically, you do. You see the shark quite early in the sense that, he kills the girl on the beach right at the...
Yeah. But actually, you don't see the shark there, though.
No, but, you see
her go under.
You see her kind of go under and you kind of see the fin and stuff. So like, you know it's a shark from the off,
Yeah.
But... And then you see it again a little bit later where it's a shark and it's swimming around. Like, it's a shark. But you don't actually get to see the full shark until, they're out on the boat.
Yeah, like the scene there where you see just a shadow underneath the water. I wonder, though, did they actually use a real shark for that and shoot it from the sky or whatever?
They could. See, it'd be hard to judge because you'd have to go out and you'd only get one chance at each take, like...
Yeah.
So it'd be hard to judge. Like maybe that is what they did, and they just, they went to somewhere where there is quite a lot of sharks. But sharks don't tend to be that high up on the water. Like they do tend to.
Some do. Like great whites will stay high in terms of in and around the ocean.
Yeah, for periods of time, but then they dive back deep. So it's not like you have hours on end to be doing it.
Yeah. But it's quality though.
Yeah, the film itself is brilliant, and like the show of this is an old town and it thrives off its summer beach business, and the mayor is just like, we have to stay open, just say that it's not a shark.
Generally kind of reminds you of Bray, really, doesn't it? The small,
in a sense,
the business booms at summertime.
Yeah, but ours didn't. Like Bray never obviously relied solely on the beach.
No, but you'll see a lot more people than...
Yeah, you see a lot more people, but it's not, the beach isn't the attraction. Like if you're thinking of like, say, British Bay, the attraction is the beach, the fact that there's a beach there. Now, there's not a whole lot, like British Bay isn't a town where people go to, like they just go to the beach. So like, it doesn't work in that sense, but this is a seaside resort where like all the shops kind of tip away during the year, like the locals are buying food and this, that, and the other. And then this big wave at summer comes in of like 3 months of people there all the time. And that's where they make all of their money. And that's they're in risk of losing that. So they're all like, yeah, just say it's not a shark, and they all take that risk.
That mayor's a slimy bastard, isn't he?
It's not just him though, like because all the townsfolk are pressuring that as well. Because that's what they want.
Even when you think the doctor's in on it, he signs off at the girl being killed by a boat.
Yeah, they're all in on it because they're like, this is how our town survives. And
I'd say if you delve into that, they probably have parts in the shops as well.
Oh yeah, and like that's. Like you can understand that's the small town mentality of it. We'll just get past this. Sure, the shark will go eventually. It won't be here forever. But then like it obviously is the shark, and then Quint's speech on the boat, where he like
the USS Indianapolis.
Yeah, where he does that, and then obviously I've given my theory on the scar. When they're showing scars, and your man has the one that's on his stomach, but he doesn't show them. But he says he's from New York, and they're, one of them mentions a tiger shark, and he's like, yeah, that's because he puts his hand, the second the tiger shark's mentioned, he puts his hand there. So my theory has always been that his scar is from a tiger shark, and that's why he's terrified of the water.
Well, he knew that the tiger shark wasn't the right shark. Remember when they bring it up on the
but they never delve into why he's terrified of water, and they never confirm if the scar he has is shark related or not. There's never actually any confirmation on that, but that's always been the theory.
But then you see the one on his leg, he's like a treasure shark.
Yeah, but that's always been my theory has always been that it was a tiger shark that got him that gave him that the scar he had. But
to be fair, like if you're gonna use any shark, apart from using the bull shark, a tiger shark's the one that you'd use because they tend to attack people more.
Yeah, but the Quint's monologue here is just so good, and then
Robert Shaw was phenomenal in this.
And then obviously the death scenes where Quint rolls down the boat.
Yeah,
and just
like
chomp.
He could have literally got away with that.
Yeah, but like the whole thing is that this all happens because Quint would have killed the shark if they just did what they said. But the researcher just wanted to get his research done.
Yeah, he wanted the proof.
Yeah, he wanted to prove that this could happen, and if they just done as Quint said, none of this would have been an issue.
Yeah, I love even the speech now when they're talking about the shark cage. He's like, go in the water, sharks in the water. No, cage goes in the water. You get in the cage, sharks in the water. Nope.
No, and just the fact that obviously Quint is the only one that dies, and then they have to swim back to swim themselves back to land, and you're just like, well, there was one great white out there. I really hope there's not another.
Like the fact that the book is based off true story, really. Like there's a mix between people being killed in just off New York or whatever.
Yeah.
And then obviously the bull shark that swam up river in New Jersey and killed like 7 or 8 people. They made a story out of that, like.
But it's mad because this all led to like this massive fear of sharks and like people who were genuinely terrified to get into the ocean and stuff like that. And in truth, sharks will kind of leave you alone.
Most of them.
Most sharks will leave you alone. Like, and most shark attacks on humans are down to them, seeing something floating on the top of the water and assuming it's a seal and attacking.
Unless it's a bull shark who comes in on shallow water and bites things because they're arseholes.
Yeah, but like in general, in general, it's not a thing, and it took years for that to be, accepted as fact because for so long people were just terrified of sharks.
He got in awful trouble for this movie because he released it right at the start of summer.
Terrified people going to beaches and stuff. Yeah, but I mean,
if you release that in the winter, people are going to forget about it by the summer. You might as well make it a hype.
Yeah, you might as well make your money off it.
And
sure, why not?
As we said, his genius showed through this movie. Like,
yeah, it did. But
and like even the casting, Richard Dreyfuss, Robert Shaw.
There's only 3 real people in it, like everyone else is kind of not really all that important. Like you could kind of do the film without them.
The one bad thing that they done in this was the little kid who gets killed. His ma's about 80.
Yeah, she's a bit too old now to be
she's about 80.
Yeah, she's more of the grandmother, I would think. But sure, we'll let that slide for the rest of how good the rest of the film is.
So we're down to number 1 for me.
Yeah.
It's got to be the old John Carpenter classic, doesn't it?
It does.
China.
Yeah. Again, this is one that was sort of on my list, but I was like, there's no point to me even pretending because I know it's going to be on yours.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite films of all time.
Yeah, left itself open for a sequel, which obviously never happened, unfortunately.
Glad we never did.
I don't know. I think if a sequel had come out back when it was,
had done it, maybe then.
Yeah, no, I don't mean now, but like back when it was first made, he obviously left it open for a sequel because obviously we see the at the end the hairy hand on the truck. And it
was just me hanging around.
Yeah, but like I think you made that joke when we recorded this episode as well. Yeah. But like it left itself open for a sequel where it was like, if I feel that there's a good story to be told, I can tell another one. But he obviously decided against it, and probably for the best because this is a comedy action,
sci-fi.
Yeah, like sci-fi comedy action, like and a bit of horror in it as well.
We said that in the show. This movie probably touches all bases.
Yeah, this one again also has one of your best, evil henchmen in it.
Yeah,
similar to Thomas Patrick Kelly, like
He's just so good.
Yeah, you could have had him in here.
No, you couldn't.
I think you could stick him in. He'd have worked.
Well, you've got the henchman. He's in everything, isn't he?
Yeah.
He also passed away there not so long ago. I think it was back in the 2020.
Yeah, it was. But he's just in everything at that time, wasn't he? He was the evil henchman.
He was in James Bond. He was in everything. Yeah.
And
I mean, he was in a lot of martial arts movies as well. So he's obviously.
Oh yeah, he knows his stuff. But like,
but like this movie was one that Carpenter brought out, and I don't think he told a whole lot of people what it was about.
Could have gone either way, really.
Yeah. Oh, this could have been like, I can understand why a lot of people hate this movie.
Yeah, I loved it now, to be honest. Yeah. When I watched it, I've loved it since I've ever watched it. It's always been so funny and action packed, and just everything about it, like Egg Shan and everything. I just saw.
I mean, this is Carpenter doing what he done for The Thing.
Yeah.
Like, didn't tell it. Like, The Thing was produced as a survival movie, and that was it. Like.
Yeah, just build. That's it. That's all you're getting.
Didn't tell anyone it was an alien. I'd say the ads probably showed a bit, but
yeah.
The likes of this then came out, and you're like, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah.
I remember getting this off my Uncle Pat on video, and it came in a green box, and it had obviously the front cover is the same as the DVD with everything on it, and then you have Kurt Russell at the top with his famous T-shirt, or it's not a T-shirt, the vest.
Kurt Russell's a bit of a weird one, right? Because if you like Kurt Russell, you really know the name Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
But then when you think of other action stars,
Mel Gibson, things like around that time, yeah.
Everyone kind of knows who Mel Gibson is, but not everyone would know who Kurt Russell is in a sense. Do you know what I mean?
You turn around, can you name 5 Mel Gibson movies? You can't. Can you name 5 Kurt Russell movies? It's a lot harder.
Yeah, but like Kurt Russell as the action hero, but like either he's never a good guy and he's never a bad guy. Like, he is the good guy in the film, but he's not a goody two shoes either. Like, he's a real dickhead at times.
I mean, Carpenter used him 3 times for a reason, like 4 times for a reason.
Oh yeah, like
actually probably more than 4 times, is it? The Thing, this, Escape from New York, Escape from LA.
There's definitely another one. What am I not thinking of?
It probably is.
There's definitely
a couple off the top of my head.
There's definitely other ones that I just
that was another one that could have got an honorable mention to be in here. Escape from New York.
Yeah, great film. Yeah, Escape from the other one. That's the less said about that, the better. But Escape from New York, yeah.
Big Trouble. Like, it has Kim Cattrall in it as well.
Yeah. Just the cast is brilliant for this, to be honest.
Like, the story's just so fucking mental.
But that's the thing. It's
brought a lot of Chinese folklore. It's brought a lot of Chinese folklore into American life.
Yeah, I can only imagine, being handed the script, like, this is the film we're going to do, and you're reading through it, and you're like, so I'm a trucker, okay, and I fall in love with some girl, okay, that's cool.
The only thing is, I'd say that happens far too quick.
Yeah, but it's like, see, he's not in love with her. She's kind of in love with him. He's kind of just infatuated with her, and then he's just like, yeah, but I'm still, time to hit the road, babes, I'm gone. And she's like, no. She's like, no, stay. And he's like, no. Which, sticks to his character, which is something that tends not to happen now. Normally, the hero changes and he's no longer the trucker who's, all he cares about is himself and getting to the next town. No, he stays that way. Like, he's still, I'm off, babes.
I love it when he's on the radio and he's like, when the rain's belting down and there's a guy banging on your door or standing beside you giving out, and he's like, yeah, you owe some Jews. Yeah, checks in the mail.
Yeah, it's just, and like, you're reading through the script and you're like, yeah, he falls in love with her, saves her, and you're like, wait, hang on, go back a page there.
How did she get captured?
Hang on. So there's this ancient old man who, has been like, he can't die, and he needs her so that he can become young again and then remain around forever, but in a young man's body. But he has magic powers and all of his friends have magic powers, and I'm just a trucker and I'm going to win. Yes.
And you've got good reflexes.
Your main thing is that you can catch a knife and throw it really quickly and you always hit the target. That's how you win. I say, okay. Like, imagine reading that script, you'd be like, this is batshit, but I love it. And I'm so glad that they went with this. Obviously, it is not a comic book, but there is a book. There's 3 books based to this. which was obviously where they were going to go.
Yeah.
But they obviously just stopped here.
It obviously didn't do well at the time.
It didn't do well, and I think it's kind of one of those cult ones. You you either love it or you hate it.
Yeah.
Or well, I suppose some people would be kind of like, yeah, it was fine, but they wouldn't be like, I'd go see a second one. Do you know what I mean?
Whereas about it I would have been. When you say people love it, like you've got arguably the biggest action star in the world that wants to remake it because it's his favorite film in The Rock.
Yeah. To be honest, I'd be okay to see it be remade.
I just don't see him doing it. He wants to obviously play Jack Burton if all is to be believed.
Yeah, see, the thing is, he's too big to be Jack Burton. Do you know, like Jack
Burton? I wouldn't
believe
he's a trucker.
Like, I'm not saying that, Kurt Russell was a small guy. He was like a big enough guy, but his thing isn't, I'm super strong and I can lift really heavy things. His thing is literally, I'm a trucker and I can throw knives really well.
It's all reflexes.
Yeah, like that's about it. Like everything else is a bit, there's no way I should be winning against what's essentially Raiden from Mortal Kombat here.
Well, that's where Mortal Kombat came from.
Yeah, I know, yeah. So like essentially Raiden one of the most powerful people in Mortal Kombat is just some throwaway character in this. Like, it's insane. But yeah, I knew it was going to be the top, like either the top or second top for you here. It's definitely up there.
Yeah.
Mine is super obvious to anyone that knows me. Yeah. Wear the t-shirt and everything. No, Debbie Does Dallas. You're the only one who thinks Debbie Does Dallas is the best film of all time. Space Jam is the best film of all time. And since we covered it, because the new Space Jam came out, which if people haven't seen, there was mixed reviews on it, which I was expecting, because I think a lot of people thought it was going to be a complete throwback to the old one. I knew that's not where they would go. I knew they'd go a little bit different. I will always think the original is better. But I think if you sat kids down and what gave them this Space Jam, I think they would love it. Mainly American kids, because I think LeBron James didn't transcend the way that Jordan did.
No, he changed the game.
Very few have. The likes of Tiger Woods did, Jordan did. That doesn't really happen that much anymore.
It's amazing when you look at it now in terms of us, like say from early 90s, the amount of people that have changed sport. And I think changed their retrospective sport. Like Tiger Woods changed the face of golf. There's no denying that.
Yeah, I think the 90s allowed for it, because there was just somebody came along that was so charismatic and so actually good at their sport that it allowed them to do that. Nowadays, there's just too many people that are too good.
Yeah.
That, there's an argument as to who's the best. Like, there was no argument back then. Jordan was the best. Woods was the best. There was no discussion to be had. Like, whereas now,
Woods, in my opinion, is probably the best ever. Jordan, in my opinion, is probably the best ever. Now, I don't watch basketball.
Yeah, but do you know what I mean? Like, there was no disputing that. Like, now, before he obviously Kobe Bryant passed away, but there was always the argument about Kobe or LeBron. And then even now, there's still LeBron and X player, and sometimes it's a flavor of the month or whatever, but there's always that argument. That was not a thing with Jordan.
Is there more games now, though, as well, that these records are being broken quicker? Like, Jordan set a record, and Kobe's 2 or 3 years younger than Jordan was when he broke it.
Yeah, but you also change the game, so you change how the game is played, and people get to learn off you. Like, Pele did this so that Maradona did this so that the likes of Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo can go and do something different. But if Messi and Maradona if these players don't exist, then these younger players have to think up these things for themselves. Like the Cruyff turn, something that loads of players do now.
Yeah.
It wasn't called the Cruyff turn before that because nobody was doing it.
Yeah. Well, people might have been doing it, but not with that.
The odd person might have done it, but not as a mainstay for them, like.
Yeah, and it's worse because you see people doing that and no one could stop them.
Yeah, exactly. So it became his thing, and because he perfected it, other players, when you're younger, you're watching and you're like, I'm going to learn to do that. And you learn to do it. Like the Rabona, people have learned to do that because they've watched players do it.
With the amount of people doing that now.
Yeah, but like it's now a well-recognized thing, whereas like the fake shot, but you pass it off that Thierry Henry used to do.
Yeah.
You see that, you don't see too many people doing that, but when we were kids and Thierry Henry did that, everyone was doing it,
crazy.
And it's just one of those things. So like Jordan transcended, and then he obviously went off, he made this film, lots of speculation as to about why he wasn't playing basketball at the time and why he actually did retire, and it was gambling debts and his dad had just died. And there's all this speculation
as the man wanted to do. Like, he didn't have to keep playing just for people's thing. He wanted to stop, he can stop.
No, see, the thought is that he was suspended for gambling.
Oh, well, gambling probably wouldn't have been illegal then, unless you're backing your own team to lose.
No, it was other things, like he was gambling and he was in very heavy debts. Like, he's a big gambler.
Yeah, you can see that. I've heard that from golf terms.
Yeah, so there was stuff like, was it a suspension? But the NBA never wanted to say it, so they told him to say he was retiring, and that's like there's suspicions about that's what happened. Like, his dad was killed and stuff, and it was to do with his gambling debts.
He went off to be a baseball player then, didn't he?
Yeah, but the thought was that there's theories out there that he only did that because they were like, just make up an excuse so that you can step away for the 2 years we've banned you and then come back. Whether that's true or not, I don't really care, because it has nothing to do with the film. But the film, like, it's just, you know, you've got Michael Jordan. You take the Looney Tunes, which at the time are
they were fucking huge. They were the at this stage
the cartoon.
They were the Sesame Street.
Yeah, they were the Sesame Street of that generation, and like I suppose the Peppa Pig of this generation sort of thing. But a little bit more than that, because kids kind of outgrow Peppa Pig by a certain age, whereas the Looney Tunes, you kind of stuck with them for quite a while.
Yeah, well, I think I was watching them when they were on RTE, and then they went into obviously Animaniacs and things.
Yeah, well, the thing is, like, it was one of the things that, you know, my parents, like my dad, would have been happy to sit down and watch with me. The Looney Tunes will sit down and watch, because there's all these little wink nudges that a kid doesn't get, but, you know, you get, and they're like, yeah. But even like, because it's so wacky and zany, like, it's something that it's not, you know, stupid kids comedy either. Like, it's something that you can sit down and be like, yeah, it is enjoyable enough.
I think this may have been Finn's first sort of real film that wasn't a cartoon, that he actually sat down and watched and rewatched. Now, I know it turns into a cartoon, but
yeah, like it's mainly cartoony, but, you know, like, you've got like Jordan playing basketball with the Looney Tunes, you know, perfect selling point, because if you're into sports, you're like, oh, well, I can sit down and watch it for that aspect. Oh, I want to sit down and watch something with the kids. There you go. There's loads of sport, and even when it's not sport, it's, you know, joke. There's nothing too serious in it. No. So it keeps the kids' interest. It's bright, it's colorful, it's everything. And then
Danny DeVito.
You've got Danny DeVito playing your bad guy, which, you know,
he couldn't have been anybody else at that stage.
Yeah, and then, you know, you've got for the people who are into basketball, you've got the likes of your Larry Birds, your Charles Patrick Ewings, Muggsy, like all of these players. Like, these were all big players at the time, big names. Obviously Ewing and Barkley are the two bigger names at the time. Larry Bird had kind of retired at that point, but he was still a big name.
He's
playing golf, but like, then you've got Bill Murray just hanging around. Like,
who let Dan Aykroyd in this movie?
I didn't know Dan Aykroyd was in this flick. Mr. Murray, how did you get here? Oh, I know the Teamsters working on the film. So that's how it works. Like I love that. Like,
wall all over the place.
They break the fourth wall, but they like, there's no reference to, oh, we broke the fourth wall. It's just like, that's how it works. It's so good. Like, to me, this is the film that I've watched the most in my entire life, easily.
It's definitely the film I watched the most this year, because Finn watched it about 400 times at the start of the year.
Yeah, no, genuinely,
when Netflix brought it out.
In my life, this is the film I've watched the most times. Like, I have this on. I still have the VHS of it. It's not rewound, because it was obviously just left after the last time I watched it, and I didn't rewind it because I was a child and clearly didn't rewind it. Have it on DVD. It's on Netflix. Obviously, well, it was for quite a while. Have it on Blu-ray. Sure, why not? Just get it on Blu-ray. I
think the 4K is coming out this year.
I have the 4K already, Greg. It's sitting there.
What is it?
Yeah, have that. Like, all of it. Just fucking put it all. Have the jersey and everything. Yeah, I have everything. You know, like, it's just this for me is the film that I fell in love with as a kid.
You still have the top that we brought you back from America?
I do. Yeah, it's one of the Space Jam tops I own.
The purple one, wasn't it?
No, it's not purple. It's got like it's got them all on the front, and then like a few of their bits and pieces. Yeah, there's like I've like 3 or 4 of them. Then I have a hoodie for Space Jam. I have the top, obviously, that I've worn before when we did the show.
The one you're wearing now.
Yeah, this one, but like the actual, the basketball top with the Toon Squad and everything on it. Yeah, I've got all of it. For me, as a kid, this and Mighty Ducks, which was something that was close to making it for me on this list. These were two of the films.
I was surprised it didn't.
Yeah, it was hard to knock off some of the others. Like even there's a lot of honorable mentions there. Like the Jurassic Parks should have probably been in here somewhere.
Die Hard.
Dodgeball. Like there's too many. Good Will Hunting. Like just too many.
Yeah. We only went 5. We could have sat here for another 2 hours.
We could have just gone through the whole lot of them. Dogma, Shaun of the Dead, Happy Gilmore.
I think there's
Predator.
50 episodes.
Yeah, it's just, there's so many of them. But obviously this was always going to be the top one for me. Anyone that knows me knows that this was going to be on my list of the best films because I've made the arguments before of why this is the best film because it's it's cartoons, it's family friendly. As a parent, you'll sit down and enjoy it. Everything there's just nothing.
We all remember the episode of Sherlock Real.
Yeah, there's nothing that beats this. It's like my argument as to why 7-Up is the greatest drink of all time, because if someone comes out to you and they're like, here, do you want a Coke? But you'll be like, oh yeah, oh but it's flat. No, it's all right. Someone comes out to you and goes, you want a 7-Up? And you're like, yeah, oh but it's flat. Yeah, that's all right. I'll drink a flat 7-Up. That's fine. No,
I may not be sick, but I'll drink it.
Everyone will drink it, and then people say, what about a beer? Nobody wants a flat beer, lads. 7-Up is the greatest drink of all time, right? That's why that's the greatest drink of all time. And the reason
to argue with the logic.
Yeah, and the reason Space Jam is the greatest film of all time is that it's family friendly. Everyone can watch it. Everyone will enjoy it as they watch it. And look at the stars it's got in it. It's Bill Murray as Bill Murray. How can you not love it?
I mean, Bill Murray plays Bill Murray in one other movie that I can think of.
Yeah. Well, very Murray Christmas as well.
Oh, he's Bill Murray in that.
He's Bill Murray in that as well. But yeah, it's just it's classic stuff. But it's great to look back on some of the episodes we've done throughout the year.
We might try and do this if we're still around next year with the movies that we do, obviously.
Yeah, well, Space Jam will be still top of my list unless we say that I'm not allowed to use it.
We can't use it now because this is this year's list.
Ah, yes, okay, I get you. But I might just cover it again next year just so I can put it in again.
This was the year that Space Jam 2 was released. This is the day Space Jam 2 was released, so we're going to cover Space Jam 1 again.
Yes, very good. But no, yeah, it's been a great year. Obviously, I had you come in.
I come in through it.
You came on for your first episode as the Hurricane, and it
was 4 or 5, maybe 6 at best, and then I came in.
I think it was probably 2 or 3 episodes later. You were in as just the mainstay co-host, which was great to get you on board. Obviously, I generally
sent you that text message as I was locked, lying in bed.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, I'm all over it because obviously we were great friends before, and just it gives us a chance to sit down for whatever it is,
especially with the tough times it's obviously going through. And
it's let us sit down, and we always rewatch the film just before it comes up, so it gives us a chance to go back and rewatch something, or if one of us haven't seen it, it's the chance to see something new.
Yeah, I think there's only been one movie that I haven't seen on that list. There's been no movies that I haven't seen on this list.
I think Hurricane was probably one of the few I hadn't seen.
Good Will Hunting was the one I'd seen the least.
Good Will Hunting is very good, but it's tough to sit down and watch it a load of times in a row. But yeah, no, it's been a great year, and obviously, as we said, we're moving off to our own YouTube channel, and hopefully we can continue on with another great year and see what films we have in store for the next year. But until then, it's been a great year, and good luck.